Mrs. Castro here from Bullock Elementary School. Every year we have a partnership with the Gloucester County Superior Court, and our judge, Honorable Judge Smith, the best judge ever, is our judge through the Classroom to Courtroom initiative. Every year, Judge Smith takes time to oversee our mock trial, and also he comes in towards the end of the year to give some words of wisdom to our third graders before they move on to the next grade. This year, because of COVID and having a hybrid platform, we were able to still continue our partnership through a virtual platform. So I want to thank Judge Smith on behalf of Bullock Elementary School. This video is a compilation of some of the questions that our students had for Judge Smith and his responses. Thank you.
If the person is right or wrong, or if they're telling the truth or if they're lying.
So your question is, how do you know when a person is right or telling the truth? Well, I'll tell you, it's a great question, but it's one of the hardest things a judge has to do, is to judge someone's credibility, meaning, are they being truthful or not? A lot of times we can look at a person in the way they're moving their body, or maybe they're not looking at you when they're talking to you, might tell you that they're not being truthful. Another way is to judge what somebody is saying against what maybe they said in the past or some other piece of evidence. So let's say someone comes in and says, "You see that car out in the parking lot, the blue one? That's the car that ran the red light. I'm sure of it because it has a dent in the back." So you can use that piece of evidence, meaning the car you see outside, the blue one with the dent, to judge the statement that the person is telling you there in the courtroom. And I would believe the person because now I see the other evidence to compare their testimony to what I see. So that's one way we do it. But it's a great question, but it is one of the toughest things judges have to do. Do we have another question?
Hey Judge, I'm curious, what's your favorite food?
So your question is, what is your favorite food? Well, it's pretty tough to pick one because I love a lot of different foods. Some foods I can't eat anymore. I could eat a lot of things when I was younger. Certainly one of my favorite is ice cream. I love ice cream. But probably my favorite food would be a good steak. I'm a meat eater. I really love a good, maybe steak and potatoes. That's probably my favorite meal. Do we have another question?
Judge, how do you decide what someone's punishment is?
The question is, how do you decide what someone's punishment is? Well, judges are given two things to help them decide, many other things, but two basic things. One is the law. The legislature, your assemblymen and senators, they have enacted laws to tell us what the penalties are for a particular crime. And there are oftentimes laws that guide us into how we exercise the next thing that's given to us, our discretion. That's where we take a look at, try to take a look at all of the things that are going on. Who is the person in front of us? Have they committed a crime before? What does the victim think of this crime? Do they feel that the person should be severely punished or maybe given a break? And we use both the law and our discretion to determine what the proper sentence should be, what the proper punishment should be. It's not an easy thing to do, but we're guided by at least those two primary principles. Do we have another question?
How does it make you feel when people have to go to jail or not?
So this is really a pretty tough question that you've asked me. How does it make you feel, meaning me, the judge, feel when people have to go to jail? Well, jail sometimes is thought of as only a place where people go to be punished. And that's kind of tough because punishment can be pretty tough. Jail is also a place people go to keep them away from others so that they don't harm others. So sometimes we need to be protected from the people that do bad things, just like your mom and dad protect you every day. Judges have to sometimes protect the people, the community, by sending people away to jail so they don't do any more harm to anyone. I can't say that either punishment or protection make me feel good, but I do feel that I'm doing a job that's necessary and important. Punishment sometimes helps people to know what they did was wrong and hopefully get the message that it's not a good idea to do it again. Protecting people, though, is very, very important. We don't want people getting hurt over and over again by someone who continues to commit bad things like crimes. So they sometimes go to jail in order to protect us from them. I can't necessarily say I have a good feeling by putting those people in jail for either of the two reasons. But I do have a good feeling about the job I'm doing in serving the people and trying to make it a better place for all of us to live. Do we have another question?
Hey, Judge, how do you become a judge?
So it's a good question. How do you become a judge? In New Jersey, you become a judge by being appointed by the governor. And your appointment, or the recommendation for appointment, has to be approved by the Senate. That's part of the legislature, another part or branch of government. So I am recommended by the governor, and I go through a process where my background is checked by the state police, and I fill out a lot of forms, and I'm questioned by a lot of people. And then once everything goes through positively or okay, then the governor sends my name to the Senate, and I appear before the Senate, and they question me. And if they approve me, it's called advice and recommendation. They then approve me to be appointed by the governor as a judge. It's very similar to what happens for federal judges. I'm a state court judge, and there are federal judges. Federal judges are appointed by the President of the United States. And in the same or similar fashion, the United States Senate must approve that appointment and recommend that they be appointed as a judge. But that's the process. It involves being appointed. We're not elected. We don't go through elections in New Jersey. We are appointed by the governor. Do we have another question?
What is your favorite part of your job?
So your question is, what is my favorite part of the job? Well, I like the law. I enjoy sort of the adventure, what we call intellectual adventure or a challenge of the law, taking and investigating facts, investigating what law is appropriate that will apply to those facts, and then putting the two together to try to find an answer. I've always enjoyed that. But I will have to say, probably the favorite part of my job are the people I work with. They're very dedicated people. The law, particularly in what we do in the courts, is really trying to help people. And I work with a number of people who have big hearts. They really want to help people, and they're there to try to make people's lives better. Many people come to the courts because they have a problem in their life or they need some help with something. In this context, these are the great people because they're always looking to help people. So that's probably the best part of my job, is working with some really fantastic people. Is there another question?
Judge, were you always a good student?
So your question is, was I always a good student? Well, I guess yes and no. Not everything came very easily to me. I was in school. I wasn't a really good reader. I needed a little help with that back in elementary school. But once I got the help and stuck with it, I became a better reader. But generally speaking, I did pretty good in school. And I enjoyed school because I enjoyed the people around me and my friends. And I always had great teachers. Thank goodness for great teachers. But, you know, some subjects were harder for me than others. But if I worked hard, particularly a little bit harder on the subjects that were not as easy for me, I did pretty good. But I will admit to you, I always didn't get an A. But I tried. I tried my best. Any other questions?
Are you on TikTok? I'm on TikTok.
Okay, so am I on TikTok? Well, I do a pretty mean whip and nay-nay, and I floss like no other. But No, I do not have a TikTok account. Believe it or not, they really don't want us to be on the computer much in terms of the social media that you guys know. Not on Facebook or Twitter, certainly not TikTok or some of the others, because unfortunately, it's not very safe for us to be on those things, because then people that come before us in our court cases may know where they can find us by doing those things, or maybe send some mean things to us from time to time. So no, I'm not on TikTok or any of those others. Is there another question?
Hey Judge, how are your math skills?
So Carlos, your question is, how are my math skills? Well, back in the day, as they say, back when I was in maybe grade school, but high school and college, my math skills were really pretty good. It was probably one of the better subjects I had when I was in school. Today, I go to the calculator. That's what I go to oftentimes. But my math skills are pretty good. Not as good, though, and I'll say very proudly, as my daughter, who is in college now as a math major. She's doing math problems right now that would make your head spin. But for the math that I need, and I do need math in the work I do, my math skills are pretty good. Do we have another question?
Judge, how long do cases take?
Question, how long does it take cases to get settled? Well, like everything else in life, it all depends. Some cases are settled relatively quickly. Sometimes cases are settled because both parties really kind of agree that the settlement should take place. They just want to figure out how to do it. Those things can sometimes be settled quickly. Sometimes cases are settled quickly because, let's say in a criminal case, the evidence against the person is so complete. The crime is captured on video, let's say, and the person who commit the crime, their face is clearly seen, and they're caught with the money they stole. That case may settle quickly because the evidence is so strong. Other cases can take a very long time. There are some cases that could take a couple of years to settle because you need, let's say, experts. In a criminal case, you may need experts to do sophisticated scientific testing on the evidence, or you need experts to test the guns and see if they're the guns that were used, all those sort of things like that. And those things take time. So it may take a long time to settle that case. And some cases, frankly, never settle because they have to go to trial because the parties never agree on how the case should resolve. And either a jury, let's say in a criminal case, or sometimes the judge is the one that makes the decision on how the case resolves rather than settling as from the parties. But again, it's one of those things in life, it all depends upon the facts. Good question though, Rocco. Do we have another question?
How many times do you use that hammer?
Is, how many times have you used your hammer? Well, in the law, we call it a gavel. Okay, Austin, this is going to be a pretty boring answer, but in 10 years, I've never used my gavel. Basically, it's because if I feel I have allowed my courtroom to get that out of control, then I need to step off the bench and cool down before I come back in and get things under control. Much like you might have to do on the playground sometime. If somebody got you a little mad or took the ball away from you or something like that, rather than get really mad, maybe just walk away until you can cool down and come back and reason it out with the person who took the ball. For me, the gavel, I don't really find it's a way to get control in the courtroom. I have a sheriff's officer in the courtroom, and he or she is the person who's going to get people to stay under control and be respectful. Now, there have been plenty of times lawyers and people in my courtroom have been disrespectful and out of control, and I've straightened them out. But I've never done it with my gavel.
Thank you, Judge Smith, for answering all our questions. We really appreciate you.